1. Okay, so I started at a restaurant like a month and a half ago. For reference, I'm in my early 20s. All but 2 of the other new hires are in their teens and or seasonal because of college. I'm in college too, but I'm local, so I'm not leaving, hopefully anytime soon. I was hired with one other person. Over the last couple of weeks, I hired 6 other people, like 2 weeks after me and the guy. The restaurant is now overstaffed. The general manager, who's only been there about a year or 2, is big on seniority. I get it. There are other sections and other money to be made where they aren't serving. However, my managers consistently give me the worst sections, like all of the other servers constantly have 4 tables, at least, and multiple parties while I'm struggling to fill out 2 of my 3. I can't even make $100. I told them about the crappy money, and they moved me for 1 day. I did good, lots of money, and no mistakes. However, they're going back to giving me the worst sections every day and giving other, brand new people better sections every weekend. In the past, they told me I needed to do more, like run more food, pre-bus tables, stay off my phone. I'd already been doing all that. And especially, now I run more food than anyone. I'm only on my phone when my side work is done, and I have no tables because they put me in a bad section. But I jump at the opportunity to help when needed. Plus everyone else is on their phone too. As for pre-bussing, I do it 99% of the time. And I also bus my own tables so the hosts don't have to worry about it. The one time I don't, the managers chew me out and pull me aside when I'm busy to tell me I'm doing wrong. I even help with putting away dishes, which no one else does, all while keeping my customers happy. Other than that, my customer reviews are really good. I've been given nothing 1 time, and only 3 times did they give me a bad one. 2 of the times I have no idea why. I answered all their questions and got them everything they wanted. The customer spoke a different language, which led to them not saying what they wanted correctly. And I've had 1 complaint, the last person I mentioned. I'm really annoyed because all the other new people are kids with less experience who live with their rich parents and don't rely on the money as much. I live on my own and pay for my school, car, home, and everything by myself. I can't afford to make less than $100 every shift. They promoted a girl to bartender after 3 months with no experience, because she's a single mom and is moving, so she needs experience, which good for her. But I only get held back with the same financial needs. The other, newer newbies also don't have seniority, so they're not entitled to busier sections. There are enough people to give me better sections. They rotated between the same newer newbies. I also don't feel like the managers are evaluating me fairly because I've done everything they asked and more, which is more than other people. And sometimes even the seniors who apparently don't have to run food or side work because they've been here for longer. Yet they just tell me to do what I've already been doing. Additionally, which is less marginal but still annoying, 3 of the senior servers always, literally always, without fail, give me the hardest side work. The other newer newbies get to rotate the really easy stuff while I'm constantly doing the most, even when I work doubles. One said it's because he trusts me to do a good job, but it's been that way since the day I was hired, and as closer, he should be checking and correcting people's bad closing anyways. Coincidentally, the most senior server and best one in the company actually rotates side work evenly and lets me do other things. Basically, am I in the wrong to ask for better sections more often? I'm not asking to only get the best ones all of the time. I'm only asking for more equality and fairness. My customers always compliment me. I have personality. I'm helpful to guests. And I try my best to help the restaurant. I just started here, and I hate moving jobs, so I don't know what to do here. 2. I am a hostess at a decently popular downtown restaurant. It's my weekend job on top of my 9 to 5. When hired 6 months ago, I really needed the extra money for my wedding, but now it's just so I can go back to school in 5 months and take less student loans. It's my first ever restaurant job, and by my third shift I was the only hostess. I did that for months. I worked upwards of an extra 20 hours a weekend, as the only host and had only 2 days off a month at most. It all came to a head when I booked a concert out of town for my husband's birthday, and gave 7 weeks' notice I had be gone on a Saturday in July. A few days after that, I found out a close family friend's father died, and the funeral would be the Friday after the concert. It's not something I can miss, so they got 8 weeks' notice about it. I apologized about it to the manager, but there's not much I can do. Non-refundable tickets one weekend and a funeral the next. My chief complaint so far: after training a new team of 4 hosts, I told them I need Sundays off, because I had 2 days off a month and I was struggling. They tried to schedule me anyways. They also tried to change my schedule, so I had to work the day after my own wedding. They also changed the schedule with less than 24 hours notice, and get upset when I tell them I can't work on such short notice, and they should call me instead of just putting me on the schedule. I have to ask for permission to book things in my personal life, concerts, weekends away, movies, before I buy anything because management won't approve it. If I book it, then request the day off afterwards. I can't leave at the assigned end of my shift without asking permission to go home. I need to have completely open availability for whenever they need me, and need to come in if called, according to the new operating hours, which they won't even tell me. They have mandatory meetings I can't attend due to my other job, then refuse to update me on what it was for. I do hosting, deep cleaning, running, busing, light serving, and some admin work since we're constantly short-staffed. I'm paid hourly and never receive any tip-out like others, since my official title is host. I work anywhere from 4 to 8 hours without a break or lunch when I'm supposed to. When I started voicing my complaints, a promotion and raise was discussed. They didn't move forward with it once they felt I was placated. I like the owners on a personal level, but I don't think they're good managers. I'm a people pleaser and having a hard time coming to terms with needing to leave. I'm trying to stick it out until I go back to school in November. I don't get paid as a manager, but I'm expected to act like one. I've been more firm lately, but it gets brushed off. Every conversation I have with a manager, I feel like I'm being gaslit into thinking this is completely normal for a restaurant, and I don't know if it is. 3. Background. I was working as an AM for a burger chain with local owners. Anybody who has worked with me knows I will always take my job seriously on the clock, no matter what the job is. Here, that means that I fixed customer complaints within reason. Ran the store, GM worked a fluctuating schedule, so the 3 AMs were in charge if the GM wasn't present during my shifts, and filled in any spot in the store as needed. One thing I tried to do whenever possible was to support and believe my coworkers, as I had to work with them, but rarely did I have to work with customers, as most complaints could be handled by the cashier. This happened during a slow afternoon with light staffing. I was in the back going through a checklist for store maintenance when I start to hear a whole lot of cussing and insults. But not from the kitchen with John, which wouldn't have surprised me. I quickly make my way up front and generally ask what the issue is. Joe starts to speak, but Karen interrupts him with a snap and says, "The chicken in my sandwich is dry, and your employee says he can't give me a refund." He couldn't, only managers could, pointing to a literally half-eaten sandwich. Please note that her tray is covered with sides such as fries, onion rings, pies, etc. What are you going to do to fix this? At that time, we were unable to do partial refunds. It was either the whole order got refunded or none of the order got refunded. My immediate response was, "I will personally remake this sandwich for you, no extra charge. It will be 7 minutes, as I will put in fresh chicken just for you. Joe, go take a break in the office. We need to have a talk." I apologized that he had to deal with Karen, and gave him permission to trade with the pizza place across the street, which he always loved to do. Karen sat down, apparently satisfied, and I went to the kitchen. John had already dropped a new batch of chicken as he heard the complaint. I asked him how old the chicken was. He said 2 hours. I suddenly believed Karen and got my hopes up. I prepped the sandwich, and the moment the chicken came out the fryer, I tested the batch and put one piece on the sandwich, wrapped it, and took it out to Karen with fresh fries and a cookie on the house. A minute faster than I said it would be. I wished Karen a good day and went back to the office to talk to Joe. I asked Joe if he had said anything other than he couldn't do the refund, which he said he hadn't. Less than 3 minutes later, I sent Joe for pizza. I heard Karen screaming for attention at the front again. When I came back, Karen declared again, "The chicken is dry. Give me a refund." Karen's tray was completely empty. Sandwich eaten, and all her sides gone in about 10 minutes total, which boggled my mind. To top it off, Karen had a little smirk on her face, like she had already won and was doing a victory lap. I paused, breathed in, and said, "No." Karen was shocked, then immediately began to scream and cuss at me, calling me a stupid white boy, called the store a waste of space, and repeated the chicken was dry after a solid minute of pure vitriol. I said, "Ma'am, I personally went to the kitchen to make this sandwich. I pulled your chicken out of the fryer the moment it was done, tested the batch to make sure it was perfect, and brought it straight to your table. You've eaten over $40 of food. I will not authorize a refund." The next 5 minutes were filled with her screaming insults, complaints about the food, that suddenly was poorly made, and demanding a refund. I simply kept saying no throughout Karen's temper tantrum. By this point, both Joe and John were nearby watching, as was every other customer. Karen got really quiet for a moment, and decided to play the race card. "You're only treating me like this because I'm black." That really got me pissed. I fully acknowledge that my upbringing left me subconsciously distrustful of any other ethnicity and race, but I always made a point of being respectful to everybody to counter that bias. It was one of my major insecurities, especially at that time. The store became silent for only a moment before I replied as evenly as I could, "Ma'am, I have treated you with the same respect I show to everyone, and more patience than I show even my own parents. But if you really insist, I can start being racist." The sudden gasps from everybody else in the store were deafening after I spoke. Karen gaped for about 15 seconds, grabbed her purse and left. I never saw or heard from her again, but a week later John told me that the GM asked both him and Joe about the incident, as Karen had left a corporate complaint. Later, the GM asked me if I would be willing to tell my version. After I finished recounting my version, the GM started laughing and pulled up the video from security. He told me that he had already banned this woman from coming back, and that John and Joe had recommended I get a raise. I ended up leaving a couple of months later, but every time I swing by, John always asks if I can start being racist. 4. This happened back in 2009. I was waiting tables at an upscale steakhouse, and the company culture was absolute garbage. The owner, Gary, was constantly throwing tantrums and screaming at everyone, and we all hated him. He'd line us up before every shift just to berate us and yell how lucky we were that he hired us, because we were all shit at our jobs and no one else would ever have us. Stuff like that. The only reason anyone ever stuck around was because the money was good, due to the high ticket prices and solid customer base, as well as the fact that there weren't many other employment options for fine dining service in my area. In addition to being a massive prick, Gary was also a cheap bastard. There was this 6-foot-tall dessert cooler in the kitchen that had a broken door, and he'd put off fixing it for months because he didn't want to spend the money. So it was just sort of hanging on its hinge, and you had to be really careful opening it. Inevitably, during the height of a Saturday night rush, it fell completely off and hit one of the servers, hard. So she's laying there on the kitchen floor bleeding from a serious-looking wound on her head. Gary is standing over her and screaming down at her, "Way to go! Just brilliant! What the fuck am I supposed to do now? It's the middle of the rush. You've got a full section, and no one's gonna be able to pick up your goddamn tables because everyone who works here is useless and incompetent. You should have been more careful." I've seen a lot of his shit, but this was the hard line, and I made the decision right then that I was out. So when I got home that night, I typed up a letter to Gary telling him exactly why I was quitting, and leaving no detail out when it came to his tantrums, his verbal abuse, and the hazards in the workplace that he wouldn't address. I printed out 30 copies, went in early for my opening shift the following day, mid-afternoon, the place was only open for dinner, and hid them all over the restaurant where guests would find them, in the menus, under the napkins on the tables, in between paper towels in the restrooms, etc. Some were in really obscure places, so that they wouldn't be found right away and would keep popping up randomly. Surprise! Allowing my legacy to live on. Then, instead of working my shift, I left before the pre-shift lineup. Fast forward to a couple of days later when a coworker reached out and shared with me the beautiful details of Gary's head almost exploding with rage when he found out about the letters. A couple tables read them and walked out before ordering. People in the dining room could hear him screaming from the kitchen. Apparently, they were still finding letters weeks later, and every time one surfaced, the vein in Gary's forehead would pop out and he'd disappear into his office and slam the door. It remains one of my proudest moments, and my only regret is that I couldn't be a fly on the wall, watching this all unfold. 5. I work at an Americanized sushi and hibachi restaurant. I will admit that we don't have the most efficient kitchen process. We got bombarded with multiple takeout orders right before a random 8 p.m. dinner rush. We have one sushi chef, one person on hibachi grill, and one person on the deep fryer. Anyways, I had a table of 2 come in. They were the 5th table to sit out of the 6 that came in. The cooks do the tickets in chronological order regardless of dine-in versus to-go. Sushi had gotten the most orders. Hibachi and Fry completed their tickets relatively quickly. Then Fry Cook came to help Sushi out, and they were both working on different sushi orders. I informed the two-top that our sushi chef had gotten backed up, but he had help now, so it shouldn't be too much longer. I apologized and offered them a soup or salad while they waited. I quickly fixed them a bowl of soup and waited for their sushi. The 6th table had ordered 1 roll apiece, which was raw, very easy and quick to make. My two-top had ordered 4 rolls, one of which was a baked roll, and the other was wrapped in cucumber rather than seaweed. So this order will take longer. The sushi chef finished this order first, while the fry cook who was helping was still working on the two-top's order. After they saw table 6 get their sushi, the woman exclaimed, "Are you freaking kidding me?" And then they got up and left the restaurant. I was super upset and I felt so bad. Then the cherry on top. I get home and check Yelp, and there is the inevitable review. This couple complained about their experience and downright accusing me of being high. The waitress was high. Like, what? Are you kidding me? I don't smoke weed or do any drugs. I don't even drink liquor. That shit really pissed me off. I was feeling bad all night thinking about these people, and they just downright accused me of being high on a public platform with no reasoning or regard for someone's source of income. I hate people so much. I pestered the chefs and my manager. Screw those people. I hope they went to Taco Bell and got all the way home with the wrong order. For clarification, I understand why this table walked out, hence why I was so upset. I hated that they had such a horrible experience. I also do not blame them for making a bad review. I do, however, blame them for the wildly blatant and false accusation of me being under the influence of drugs while at work. I gave excessive background information originally as to show that I was concerned about their food and dining experience overall. Yes, they did have to wait entirely too long, and I wish that we made dine-in orders priority rather than doing multiple to-go orders first. Still, I do not believe that I gave any reason for them to accuse me of being on drugs on a public platform, where my employer will surely read the review. Ironically, I'm probably the only employee there that does not smoke weed, drink alcohol on a daily basis. So yeah, this really got to me. I can't believe I was so concerned about these people, just for them to make up something like that to add to their little Yelp post. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Spinning Plates, episode 216. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Before you go, please do poke the like button. If you'd like to get the videos a little bit earlier, then you can support me for as little or as much as you like on Patreon. You can also buy some Hellfreezer merchandise. These links are in the description below. Also, if you'd like to support on a one-off basis, you can do so by making donations during this video, or any video, and streams. None of this is required, but it is very much appreciated. Alrighty, as there's no other business today, let's move right along to Hellfreezer's question of the day. And today's question is: would you prefer to eat a cake that looked amazing but was kind of made up mostly of fondant to kind of craft and sculpt it into whatever fancy shape the baker wanted, or something that looked plain or quite frankly shabby but tasted delicious? Personally, I'm not going to see it once it's in my mouth, so I'd rather have the delicious but not necessarily great looking one. But I appreciate that the first bite is with the eye, so please do let me know what you think in a comment below. And with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourself.